Our world could be about to change, and it has everything to do with the shiny yellow stuff. I'm talking about gold. Gold has been used as a means of exchange longer than anything else used by humans as money, for thousands of years. But now there could be an effort to use gold as an economic weapon, a weapon being used primarily by Russia and China, and one designed to potentially destroy the US dollar and to weaken the West as a whole. And it's all taking place right now, under our very noses. Why gold matters to money. In our modern world, it can appear as though gold is outdated. How can this little shiny piece of metal be so powerful, especially when we can send so much money around the world instantaneously? Let me explain. Today, over 92% of all money is digital, as well as over 97% of financial transactions, meaning almost all the world's money is in numbers on servers instead of being physical cash. But this is all very new. It was only in 1990 that transfers between central and commercial banks switched over to digital, and the ATM card has only been around for about 50 years. Basically, digital money is all very new.
Even before all of this happened, paper money was backed by gold. For money to be considered worth something, it has to be backed by something real. For example, in 1873, each German mark could be exchanged for real gold. This was once even the case with the US dollar, with every note issued by the US government being backed by an equal amount of gold stored in federal vaults. However, this all changed in 1971 when US President Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. And since then, no major currency on Earth has been backed by anything real.
The war against the greenback. For 50 years, this is the way that money has worked. Digital numbers in an account, and even paper money, haven't been backed by anything real. And here's where this has begun to be a problem, especially for the United States. This graph shows the purchasing power of the US dollar since the end of World War II. The US dollar's purchasing power has been on a serious decline, dropping especially sharply since leaving the gold standard in 1971. In just over a century, the US dollar has lost 99% of its purchasing power. In short, it's in critical condition, or, as some have suggested, is on life support. Here is where Russia and China come in, and it looks like they are ready to pull the plug on the US dollar. Over the past few months, it's been reported that China has been hoarding an incredible amount of gold. China increased its gold purchasing by more than 50 times compared to the year before, and continued to increase its stockpile again this year. It's believed this is all happening due to China wanting to reduce its dependence on the US dollar, but also so it can support Russia, a major strategic partner. Since Russia invaded Ukraine, much of the world has placed serious sanctions on Russia, blocking Russia from trading as it normally would. In other words, hurting Russia by targeting its economy. You've probably heard a lot about Russia being unable to sell its oil and gas, but you probably haven't heard that much about the gold situation, and I will talk about why that matters in a moment.
Russia and China's gold partnership. Alternatives to the US dollar are very important, and so this brings us back to Russia's gold. Russia is the second largest producer of gold on the planet, but since the sanctions hit, it can't really sell that gold to the outside world like it used to. However, it's believed that to evade the sanctions, Russia has been selling it under the table to its good friend China. In 2022, China's gold buying from Russia increased by over 67%. Many believe this is only a fraction of the truth, causing many to believe that most of China's increased acquisitions were coming directly from Russia. In short, China is able to add a lot of new gold to its portfolio, while Russia is using these sales to evade sanctions and keep money flowing into the economy.
The BRICS currency and gold. Now, you want to know what all of this gold buying has to do with the US dollar. This has everything to do with the BRICS currency.
BRICS is an alliance of nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The aim of BRICS is to increase a partnership to rival the biggest economies in the world, primarily the G7 countries, including the US. The big way they want to achieve this is through the creation of a new BRICS currency. This currency would be intended to become a rival for the euro, pound, and especially the US dollar, and would be adapted collectively by all of the BRICS nations, which collectively account for 40% of the world's population. This would almost immediately make the BRICS currency the most used currency on the planet, meaning the US dollar would be used less and become even weaker. And this is where the final nail in the US dollar's coffin gets hammered in, because BRICS is planning to use gold to make its future currency even more powerful.
For the past few years, almost all the BRICS nations have been stockpiling gold. It is strong evidence that, after creating the BRICS currency, these nations will link its value to gold, the first time this has been done in half a century. If this happens, a BRICS currency would be the only money on Earth backed by something real, which would give it an incredible extra layer of power, further making Western currencies less valuable and giving the rest of the world a reason to use the BRICS currency instead of the US dollar, likely making BRICS money the new reserve currency of the world, knocking the US dollar off the top spot. Long story short, a BRICS currency would already likely become the most powerful currency, and if it's backed by gold, that's when it becomes untouchable. And that is likely when you say bye-bye to the US dollar, and perhaps the economic dominance of the United States forever.